The moment you hear these words is not random. It is the sound of heaven brushing against your soul, gently reminding you that something ancient is waking up inside you. Long before you were born, before your name was spoken by human lips, before your footsteps ever touched this world, a spiritual map was already being written for your life. And this very moment, right now, is part of that map unfolding. There are seasons when the soul feels tired without knowing why. There are moments when the heart senses that it was made for something larger than surviving, larger than repeating the same financial struggles, emotional patterns, and spiritual dryness. If you have ever felt that quiet ache inside, the one that whispers, "There must be more than this," then you are not broken. You are remembering. Before we step deeper into this sacred space, I ask you to support this work of spiritual awakening by subscribing to the Jewish Wisdom channel. This is not merely a platform. It is a bridge between ancient revelation and modern lives. When you subscribe, you are helping this light reach souls that are still wandering in spiritual fog. Now, I want you to do something simple, but powerful. Write this phrase in the comments as a declaration, not just of hope, but of alignment. I am aligned with divine abundance. Do not rush it. Let the words pass through your heart before your fingers type them. In the Hebrew understanding of creation, the universe itself was formed through words. The Torah tells us that the Creator spoke, and reality obeyed. Light did not appear by accident. It responded to divine sound. And when you speak words of alignment, something within the unseen realm begins to move. Many people spend their lives chasing money, chasing stability, chasing security, not realizing that what they are truly seeking is alignment. Wealth without alignment is fragile. Success without alignment is exhausting. But when a person becomes aligned with divine order, provision begins to flow in ways that logic cannot explain. The sages of Israel have always taught that there is a hidden structure beneath reality. What you experience on the outside is only a reflection of what is happening on the inside. When chaos rules the soul, chaos manifests in finances, relationships, and opportunities. But when harmony is restored within, the outer world begins to reorganize itself around you. There is a spiritual reason why some doors never seem to open, no matter how hard you knock. There is a spiritual reason why some people work endlessly and yet remain stuck in cycles of scarcity. It is not because they are unworthy. It is because something within them is misaligned with the flow of divine provision. The ancient rabbis described abundance not as something you chase, but as something you attract. They believed that blessing flows like a river from the upper realms into the physical world. But just like water, it only flows through channels that are open. When fear, guilt, resentment, or spiritual forgetfulness blocks those channels, the river slows or dries up. Somewhere along your journey, you may have learned to survive instead of to receive. You may have learned to struggle instead of to trust. You may have been taught that wanting more is selfish, that desiring abundance is dangerous, that spirituality requires sacrifice without reward. But that was never the teaching of the Torah. In the Hebrew tradition, abundance is not a temptation, it is a responsibility. To have more means to do more good. To receive more means to serve more. The patriarchs were not poor. The prophets were not cursed. The righteous were not meant to live in constant lack. They were meant to become channels through which divine goodness could reach the world. Yet many souls have forgotten this. They have unknowingly accepted a story that was never written for them. A story where struggle is permanent. A story where limitation is normal. A story where dreams are dangerous. What if the exhaustion you feel is not from working too much, but from living out of alignment with who you truly are? What if the financial pressure you experience is not punishment, but a signal that your inner world is calling for a new order? The ancient wisdom of Israel teaches that the soul carries a divine imprint. Each person is born with a unique spiritual assignment, and attached to that assignment is a specific flow of provision. When you walk in your true alignment, what you need to fulfill your purpose begins to arrive, sometimes quietly, sometimes suddenly, but always precisely. There is something sacred about this moment right now. Not because of me, not because of a video, but because your soul is awake enough to listen. Something within you already knows that what is coming is not ordinary information. It is remembrance. Remember this: abundance is not about numbers in a bank account. It is about spiritual permission to receive. When a person believes they are allowed to be blessed, the universe responds. When a person secretly feels unworthy, life mirrors that belief back to them. That is why words matter. That is why intention matters. That is why you were asked to write that simple phrase. It is not a ritual. It is a realignment. I am aligned with divine abundance. These words are not a wish. They are a key. And as you hold that key in your awareness, something ancient is beginning to unlock inside you. A door that has been closed for a long time is starting to shift. A current that was blocked is starting to move again. You may not feel it yet. You may not see it yet. But in the unseen realms, something has already begun. Because when the soul remembers who it is, the world has no choice but to respond. Long before modern economies existed, long before coins, banks, and numbers defined value, the people of Israel were taught something far deeper about prosperity. In the Torah, wealth was never separated from consciousness. To be blessed was not to possess more things, but to be in harmony with the divine flow that sustains all things. This is why in Deuteronomy it is written that the Eternal gives human beings the power to create wealth. Not the wealth itself, but the power. That distinction is sacred. It reveals that abundance is not dropped randomly from heaven, but generated through alignment between the human soul and divine order. When a person's inner world moves in rhythm with the Creator's design, what they touch begins to prosper. The Hebrew language itself carries this secret. The word for blessing, barakah, is related to the word for kneeling. This is not weakness. It is alignment. It is the bending of human will toward divine intention. When the soul kneels, not in fear but in harmony, the channel between heaven and earth opens. The sages taught that there are spiritual pipelines through which sustenance flows into this world. These channels are not physical. They respond to awareness, intention, and spiritual posture. When a person lives disconnected from their purpose, those channels narrow. When a person lives in gratitude, integrity, and conscious alignment, those channels widen. This is why the patriarch Abraham prospered wherever he went. He did not chase wealth. He walked in covenant. His life was oriented toward divine order. His thoughts, words, and actions moved in alignment with the Eternal. And wherever he planted his tent, provision followed him. King David understood this deeply. In the Psalms he wrote that the Lord is his shepherd and that he shall not want. This was not poetic exaggeration. It was spiritual law. A shepherd leads sheep to places where nourishment exists. To be guided by the divine is to be led into environments where provision flows. What most people never realize is that scarcity is not only external, it is internal. It begins as a belief. It forms as a story. It becomes a lens through which reality is interpreted. And over time, it manifests as limitation in the physical world. The ancient rabbis taught that the mind is the gatekeeper of blessing. If the mind is closed, the gate remains shut. If the mind is open and aligned, the gate opens naturally. This is why fear is the greatest blocker of abundance. Fear contracts the soul. It collapses awareness inward. It tells the universe that you are not ready to receive. Faith, on the other hand, expands the soul. It creates space. It invites flow. This is also why the Torah commands people to honor the Eternal with the first portion of their increase, not because God needs anything, but because giving aligns the human heart with the truth that abundance flows, not hoards. When a person releases a portion, they declare spiritually that the source is infinite, not limited. This principle appears again in the teachings of Jesus, who was deeply rooted in Jewish wisdom. When he spoke of sowing and reaping, he was not introducing a new idea. He was echoing a law that Israel had known for generations. Whatever you plant in consciousness, you harvest in experience. When you plant generosity, you harvest opportunity. When you plant trust, you harvest support. When you plant alignment, you harvest provision. This is not metaphor, it is spiritual physics. In the mystical teachings of Kabbalah, abundance flows from a divine light called Shefer. This light pours continuously into creation, but only vessels that are prepared can hold it. A cracked vessel loses what it receives. A closed vessel cannot receive it all. But a purified, open vessel fills effortlessly. You are that vessel. Your thoughts shape its walls. Your beliefs shape its capacity. Your alignment determines whether it is open or blocked. This is why some people can touch money and lose it, while others touch it and multiply it. The difference is not luck. It is vessel consciousness. And right now, something ancient is being restored inside you. Because when the soul remembers the source responds. And when alignment returns, the flow begins again. What makes ancient wisdom so powerful is not that it is mysterious, but that it is practical. The Torah was never meant to stay locked in temples or scrolls. It was meant to be lived in kitchens, in businesses, in family decisions, in the way a person wakes up in the morning, and the way they handle what passes through their hands. Spiritual alignment only becomes real when it touches daily life. Without practice, even the most sacred revelation becomes just another beautiful idea that fades. The first way this ancient principle begins to transform your reality is through awareness. Most people move through their days on autopilot, repeating the same emotional patterns, financial habits, and inner dialogue without ever questioning them. The Jewish sages taught that the soul must become conscious of itself before it can change anything. When you begin to notice how you think about money, about opportunity, about your own worth, you begin to see where the channels are blocked. If your inner voice is always saying that there is not enough, that you always lose, that nothing works out for you, then that voice is shaping the reality you experience. Alignment begins when you gently interrupt those patterns. Instead of letting old stories run your life, you choose new ones rooted in truth. You are created by an infinite source. You were designed with purpose. You are not meant to live in survival mode forever. When you wake up and consciously affirm that you are connected to divine provision, something inside you relaxes. Fear loosens its grip. The nervous system stops preparing for loss and begins to expect support. This is why intention is so powerful. In Jewish practice, even the smallest action is done with kavanah, sacred intention. Eating, working, giving, resting, all of it becomes a spiritual act when it is done with awareness. When you earn money with the intention of serving life, of honoring your family, of being a channel for goodness, that energy changes the way money flows to you. It stops being heavy and starts being fluid. Another practical application of this wisdom is gratitude. Gratitude is not politeness. It is spiritual alignment. When you thank the source for what you already have, you are telling the universe that you recognize the flow. This recognition keeps the channel open. Complaining closes it. Envy narrows it. Comparison disrupts it. But gratitude stabilizes it. Even when things are not perfect, gratitude keeps you connected to the truth that you are being carried. This is also why giving is so central in Jewish life. Tzedakah is not charity. It is justice. It is the act of keeping the flow of abundance moving. When you give, you are not losing. You are circulating. You are telling the unseen realms that you trust the river to keep flowing. People who cling to every coin out of fear unknowingly signal scarcity. People who release with wisdom signal alignment. And now I want you to write another phrase in the comments, not as a ritual, but as a real spiritual declaration of how you choose to live from this point forward. Write this with intention and awareness. I allow abundance to flow through me. As those words pass through you, something subtle but powerful is happening. You are no longer positioning yourself as someone who begs for blessings, but as someone who becomes a channel for them. And if you enjoy content like this, and you want to support us so we can continue bringing more messages like this to more people, below this video, there is a button that says thank you. If you feel moved to contribute, we will be deeply grateful. Returning to your daily life, this wisdom shows up in how you handle decisions. When an opportunity appears, do you close yourself off out of fear, or do you pause, listen, and act with trust? When money arrives, do you panic and cling, or do you breathe, plan, and circulate? When challenges come, do you collapse into old stories, or do you stay anchored in alignment? These small choices are where spiritual law becomes physical reality. You do not have to force abundance. You only have to stop blocking it. Every time you choose clarity over fear, generosity over hoarding, trust over anxiety, you are widening the channel. Your home, your work, your relationships all begin to shift when this happens. You start to notice that things move more smoothly. People appear at the right time. Solutions come with less struggle. This is not magic. It is alignment doing what it has always done. You were never meant to fight life. You were meant to flow with it. And as you let this ancient wisdom settle into your habits, into your thoughts, into the way you walk through the world, the same force that sustained the patriarchs and the prophets begins to sustain you too. There is a story whispered among the ancient teachers of Israel about a man who lived in a small village at the edge of a great desert. He was not wealthy in the way people usually measure wealth. His home was simple. His clothes were modest, yet there was something about him that made others feel strangely safe and deeply seen. When people spoke with him, they felt calmer. When they sat near him, their worries seemed lighter. No one could quite explain it, but he carried a quiet sense of abundance inside him, as if he was connected to a hidden spring that never ran dry. One year, a severe drought struck the region. Crops failed. Wells dried up. Families who had once been stable began to struggle. Fear spread through the village like a shadow. People argued over resources. Trust broke down. Even those who had a little began to hoard, terrified of losing what they had. Yet in the midst of all this, the man remained peaceful. Each morning he would rise before the sun, step outside, and whisper a prayer of gratitude for the breath in his lungs, for the light on the horizon, for the simple fact that life was still flowing. A neighbor once asked him how he could remain so calm when everything around them was collapsing. The man replied with a gentle smile that he did not trust the village to sustain him, nor the sky, nor the fields. He trusted the source behind them all. He explained that when you anchor your heart in what is eternal, temporary shortages lose their power to control you. His peace was not denial. It was alignment. As the weeks passed, something remarkable happened. While other gardens withered, his small patch of land continued to produce just enough vegetables to feed him and a few others. When travelers passed through, somehow he always had enough to offer. When someone was in need, a solution seemed to appear through him. It was as if he was standing beneath a stream, invisible to everyone else. The sages say that this story is not about luck. It is about vessel consciousness. The man was not blessed because he had more faith than others. He was blessed because his inner world was open. Fear had not closed him. Gratitude had not abandoned him. Trust had kept his channel wide. Many people today live in a kind of spiritual drought, not because the divine source has dried up, but because their inner vessels have been tightened by anxiety, comparison, and self-doubt. They are constantly bracing for loss, constantly preparing for disappointment, constantly telling themselves that there is not enough to go around. In doing so, they unknowingly block the very flow they long for. Your life may not look like that ancient village, but the same law applies. When you wake up already worried, already tense, already expecting things to go wrong, you are shaping your field before anything even happens. When you move through the day carrying resentment, regret, or a sense of unworthiness, you send a message to the unseen world that you are not ready to receive. The universe is always listening. It always reflects. But something shifts when you choose a different inner posture. When you decide to meet the day with presence instead of panic, with gratitude instead of grasping, with trust instead of tension, the field around you begins to reorganize. People treat you differently. Opportunities approach you more gently. Even challenges carry less weight. This is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is about choosing where to place your inner anchor. When your anchor is dropped into fear, you drift. When it is dropped into divine alignment, you become steady even in storms. Think for a moment about the times in your life when things flowed effortlessly, when the right person appeared at the right time, when money arrived just when you needed it, when doors opened without force. Those moments were not coincidences. They were glimpses of alignment. They were proof that you already know how this feels. Now imagine living from that place more often. Imagine making decisions from trust rather than desperation. Imagine handling money without anxiety, relationships without clinging, and opportunities without self-sabotage. This is what the ancient wisdom invites you into. Not a fantasy, but a grounded, steady, deeply supported way of being. And if you feel something stirring inside you as you hear these words, I want you to honor that feeling by sharing it. At the end of this reflection, write in the comments what you are releasing and what you are ready to receive. It can be simple. It can be honest. It can be just a few words. But let it come from your heart. As you do that, you are not just typing. You are declaring a shift. You are telling your own soul that it is safe to open again. There is a reason why the Torah describes blessing as something that overtakes you. It is not chased. It catches up. When you walk in alignment, life moves toward you. You do not have to force the river. You only have to step into it. If this message is resonating with you and you want to go deeper into this ancient path of abundance, we have created a resource called the Jewish Wisdom ebook, also known as Abundant Jewish Prosperity. It is designed to help you understand and apply these principles in a practical, grounded way, so that your spiritual insight becomes real-world change. If you feel called to explore it, the link is in the description of this video or in the first pinned comment, waiting for you. You do not have to walk this journey alone. You were never meant to. And as you carry this reflection with you, remember this truth as a spiritual seal over your life. When your heart is aligned with the source, nothing that belongs to you can miss you. There is a moment in every soul's journey when everything becomes quiet inside, not because life has suddenly become easy, but because something deeper has shifted. The noise of fear begins to fade. The old story of struggle loses its grip. A new awareness starts to take root, one that whispers that you are not here by accident, and that your life is being gently guided by something far greater than you ever imagined. This is where true transformation begins. Not when the bank account changes, not when circumstances suddenly improve, But when the inner world realigns with the eternal source that sustains all things, when that happens, the outer world cannot remain the same for long. The ancient teachers of Israel knew this. They taught that before anything changes in the visible world, it must first change in the invisible. When Jacob wrestled with the angel, he did not walk away richer in possessions, but he walked away with a new name. And from that moment on, his destiny unfolded differently. His alignment changed first, his reality followed. This is exactly what is happening to you right now. Even if you cannot yet see the fruits of it, something has already shifted. You have opened yourself to a deeper understanding of abundance, one that is not rooted in desperation, but in divine order. You have begun to see yourself not as someone chasing blessings, but as someone becoming a vessel for them. And this is why the next step matters so much. We created the Jewish Wisdom ebook, also called Abundant Jewish Prosperity, as a guide for souls who feel this awakening and want to anchor it into their daily lives. This book is not theory. It is a bridge between ancient spiritual law and modern financial reality. It takes the principles you are feeling right now and shows you how to live them in practical, grounded ways. If you feel that this message is speaking to you, then this book is part of that conversation. The link to access it is in the description of this video. It is there for you whenever you are ready to go deeper. Returning to your own inner journey, understand this. Abundance is not something you wait for. It is something you become available to. When you carry fear, you signal contraction. When you carry trust, you signal openness. When you live in resentment, you signal blockage. When you live in gratitude, you signal flow. Every thought you think is a signal. Every word you speak is a direction. Every choice you make is an alignment. You are always tuning yourself. Just like a radio. When you tune into lack, you hear scarcity. When you tune into alignment, you receive support. This is why small daily rituals matter. Not because they are magical, but because they are consistent. A moment of gratitude in the morning. A conscious breath before a financial decision. A pause before reacting in fear. These simple acts recalibrate your inner world. Over time, they change the frequency of your life. The Torah calls this walking in the ways of the eternal. It does not mean perfection. It means awareness. It means living in relationship with the source rather than in isolation from it. And here is the most beautiful part of all. You do not have to earn this alignment. You only have to allow it. You were born connected. You simply forgot. Now you are remembering. As you move forward from this moment, things will begin to shift in ways that feel subtle at first. You may notice new ideas arriving, new opportunities appearing, old fears losing their power. This is not coincidence. It is the natural result of returning to alignment. You are not too late. You are not broken. You are not unworthy. You are in the middle of a spiritual recalibration, and as that recalibration continues, the same force that sustained Abraham, that guided Moses, that strengthened David, is also supporting you. Not because you are special, but because you are connected. Let this truth settle into your heart. Let it soften the places that have been tense for so long. Let it remind you that you are not walking this path alone. And when you are ready to take the next step, the Jewish Wisdom ebook is waiting for you in the description of this video, quietly offering you a deeper way to live what you are already beginning to feel. There comes a sacred point in every spiritual journey when words no longer feel like information, but like confirmation. Something inside you begins to quietly say, "This is what I have been feeling all along." That voice is not imagination. It is memory. It is the soul recognizing truth. You were never created to live in constant tension with life. You were never meant to feel as though abundance is always just out of reach. The ancient scriptures never describe the righteous as people who barely survive. They describe them as trees planted by streams of water, bearing fruit in every season. That image is not poetic exaggeration. It is spiritual design. When a tree is planted by a stream, it does not struggle to drink. It does not panic during dry days. Its roots already know where to go. This is what alignment looks like in human form. When your inner roots are connected to the source, you are not dependent on circumstances to feel supported. You are supported from within. This is the deeper meaning behind the Hebrew idea of blessing. It is not about luck. It is about placement. When your soul is planted in the right spiritual soil, provision becomes natural. You stop forcing, you stop begging. You start receiving. Many people spend their lives chasing external security because they do not feel safe inside. They accumulate, they hoard, they compare, they worry. But the moment a person begins to feel anchored in something eternal, their relationship with money, time, and opportunity changes. They become calmer. They become clearer. They become wiser. You may notice this happening in you already. Maybe you feel less desperate than you used to. Maybe you feel more open. Maybe you feel a quiet sense that something good is unfolding, even if you cannot yet name it. These are signs of alignment returning. And alignment always produces movement. Sometimes that movement looks like a new idea that will not leave your mind. Sometimes it looks like a conversation that changes everything. Sometimes it looks like an opportunity that appears out of nowhere. But it is never random. It is the river responding to a channel that has reopened. Remember what was taught earlier. You are not here to chase blessings. You are here to become a vessel for them. When you live this way, your life becomes a bridge between heaven and earth. What flows into you does not stop with you. It moves through you, blessing others as well. This is why prosperity, rooted in divine wisdom, never corrupts. It does not inflate the ego. It expands the heart. It gives you the power to support, to create, to heal, to build. It turns money from a source of stress into a tool of service. The Torah never condemned wealth. It warned against disconnection. It warned against forgetting the source. When a person remembers where everything comes from, abundance remains clean. It remains sacred. It remains life-giving. And now you stand at a quiet threshold. Not between poverty and wealth, but between two ways of living. One is ruled by fear. The other is guided by trust. One is based on limitation. The other is rooted in divine flow. You do not have to struggle your way into the second. You only have to choose it. Every time you breathe deeply, instead of panicking, you choose it. Every time you give instead of hoarding, you choose it. Every time you trust instead of doubting, you choose it. These small choices add up. They shape your inner landscape. And your inner landscape shapes everything you experience. Let this truth become a quiet companion in your days. Let it guide your decisions. Let it soften your worries. Let it remind you that you are held by something far greater than circumstance. And as you walk forward from this moment, carry this spiritual seal with you, not as a slogan, but as a living awareness. When you are aligned with the source, everything you need is already on its way.